Hello, today we have a presentation for the staff of the Osterhout Library in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and this presentation is on understanding and applying a social model of disability. So before we can apply the social model, we have to understand it. And one way to do that is by comparing it with the medical model of disability, which is what we are trying to move away from. So the medical model of disability says, I need to be fixed to fit in with society, where the social model says society needs to change so that I can fit in. And the I that is being referred to in both of these cases is an individual with a disability. So if we look at some of the examples, we see the medical side says this individual can't go to the cinemas because they are deaf, whereas a social model would say the cinema hasn't provided closed captions. The medical model would say this individual can't go to a cafe by themselves because they are blind, where the social model would say the cafe hasn't provided braille or electronic menu options. The medical model would say this person can't work at a certain place because they can't go upstairs, but the social model would say the building doesn't have a lift or a ramp. So in the social model, the building is the problem, or the cafe is the problem, or the cinema is the problem because they need to better adapt to the needs of their public. And the public includes individuals with disabilities. The medical model says that the individual needs to be fixed, and that is what we do not want to have a mindset of in our library because it is a disservice to our patrons. So thinking of this while we look at the next few examples, just have this in the back of your mind. So how can we apply the social model to our library's website? One way to check ourselves and how we're doing with accessibility is by using a web accessibility evaluation tool. In this case, I used Wave, and I used it to search the homepage of osterhout.info, our library's website. Immediately on the homepage, we were greeted with 31 errors and 33 alerts. So we want to look into those and see how we can better serve our patrons through our website and what we can fix. One of the main issues that was coming up again and again on the homepage was contrast. And I saw this issue on the homepage, but I wanted to explore deeper. And I realized that our library website has a page for resources for the blind and visually impaired. And again, when I'm on this page, I get an alert for very low contrast. And we'll see that here, that it's gray on gray or, gray on white. And it's very difficult to read whether a person is blind or visually impaired or not. This is not the ideal contrast for reading. It's difficult even for me to see it. So I can imagine it would be way more difficult for someone who is visually impaired to read. And beyond the contrast, the text is very small. So we want to think about, it's a great step that we're providing these resources, but we want to make sure that the people who they are for can actually access them. So again, thinking about the medical and social models of disability, the medical model would say, oh, well, that's too bad. A blind or visually impaired individual can't use this website because they can't read it. Where our social model would say, no, we can include better contrast options and make this more accessible for a visually impaired person to access. Again, we have issues on our website with alternative text. So if you look at the first image of Power Library and its logo, we'll see that it is a linked image missing alternative text. So in other words, if a person who was blind or visually impaired was trying to click around on the website and see what they could access, they would have no information on what is included in this photo. So the resources that this photo provides would not be able to serve the patron. Again, the medical model of disability would say, well, then the patron just can't use this. But the social model would say, well, we need to offer alternative text so that this is accessible to someone who might not otherwise be able to see it. The Wave accessibility tool gives actually a positive comment about this image here because it does have alternative text. But what is not realized in Wave is that all the alternative text for this image says is "thank you, friends." So instead of saying this is a photo of friends at the library standing in front of a bookshelf in the library holding a check for $35,000, it just says "thank you, friends." So the person viewing here, if they needed alternative text, the alternative text that's provided would not give them any information as to what was going on in this picture. It just says "thank you." And that is an issue that would need to be fixed. Another example of alternative text it is being included, but not to its fullest extent, is in this January staff picks picture. So all of the alternative text offers for this picture is January staff picks are in, but it doesn't inform the user that the January staff picks are Ernest the Moose or Shine On or Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail. They don't know what books are being recommended because our library website isn't making that accessible. And think to yourself, well, Medical Model says, oh, well, too bad. They can't access this. Social Model says we need to do better with our alternative text so that every patron is able to access the staff picks. Now that we've talked about some things that we could fix, I do want to focus very quickly on what we're doing correctly. I think it's great that our library, through its website and online and other formats, is now offering access to Cloud Library. And what Cloud Library is a chance for patrons to access ebooks and audiobooks to borrow through a web-based service. What's great about this is while some of the things we just reviewed on our website were a bit of a disservice to the blind and visually impaired community, this is very helpful because it provides audiobooks, which are a very good alternative to print books that people with disabilities may not otherwise be able to read. So with that in mind, we are moving in the right direction, but we still have some work to do. Definitely do not forget the social versus medical model of disability, not only related to our website, but moving forward, think about it within the library and how we do not want to be actively cutting people with disabilities off from our resources just because they have disabilities. We want to be working to change our environment so that they can fit in and participate in society.